It's time to share secrets and insights from fellow entrepreneurs. If you're looking to grow or start a business and you're a game changer, then keep listening to Avanti Entrepreneur for great advice from your host, Dave Mamano, America's Entrepreneur Coach.
Hey, Avanti Tribe, Dave Mamano here. Just want to thank our sponsor, Paychex. You know, Paychex, they make it simple for businesses of all sizes to pay and manage their team. They make payroll easy with employee pay options, including direct deposit, checks, pay cards, and so much more. Founded over 4 decades ago to relieve the complexity of running a business so that the owners can focus on what matters most. Above all else, and more than any other company, Paychex makes it simple. Visit AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Go to our partner link and check them out. They're offering you a free month of payroll just for giving them a shot as an Avanti Tribe member. Give them a shot, folks. They really help this podcast to be possible. Really appreciate Paychex. Now, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast. I am Dave Mamano, your host, and we are here to help entrepreneurial achievers and business owners and leaders move forward so that they can reach their potential. I do this by interviewing the nation's best business movers and shakers. Today, I have on the show John Mitchell. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
John, I'm so excited to have you on the show. You came into my life less than 2 months ago, and you probably have changed my life more than anybody in such a short time period. Met you through a mutual friend, Kelly Hatfield, who was on my podcast early on, and really appreciate what you and Kelly are doing with your new program called Think It, Be It, life-changing course based on the book Think and Grow Rich. We're going to talk a lot about that. First, I'm going to do a little overview of who you are and why our listeners and viewers really should, like I am, be very impressed with you. You got so much going on, John. So we're going to start off, and you know, the first thing you list on your bio is that you are a lecturer at the McCombs School of Business in the marketing department, which is at University of Texas at Austin. Obviously very proud of that, teaching Think It, Be It there. Once again, we're going to get into that. And you're spending a lot of your, I'll say, waking hours now, really spreading the Think It, Be It movement, which I feel is a great mission in life. And give an overview on that. So it really is an innovative way to increase the level of success and achievement a person achieves in career, health, and marriage. His technique, it's 12 minutes a day. It's based on the book called Think and Grow Rich, which is the greatest selling book on success and achievement ever written. It's 12 minutes a day technique, and it is recognized as the top practical application in the world of the legendary book. John teaches this to high achievers at the University of Texas, as well as to entrepreneurs who are frustrated at making 6 figures a year and want to make $1 million a year. And I have to tell you, John, I think it's for anybody, even if they're not making 6 figures, that wants to take their life to the next level.
Right.
Like I said, we're going to dig into that. Now, John has some great experience previously. He is the founder of Reverse Mortgage USA. It was a one-man startup that grew to become the largest reverse mortgage company in Texas and the 4th largest in the United States. He also was president of a company called Patriot Settlement Services, and the company was licensed title agency in the state of Texas, specialized in reverse mortgages. And before that, the J.S. Mitchell Company did incredible things with real estate, over 300 apartment units, etc. And then had a lot of different things going on. You even had a restaurant called Nero Italian Restaurant, which won the most romantic restaurant in Dallas. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
You had a children's book industry called About You Books, 2nd largest personalized children's books in the United States. You even were involved in the automotive industry, Collision Masters, a chain of collision repair centers in Dallas and Richardson. And you are a public accountant. I think that's how you started out, right?
Right.
And I just learned this about you too. You started a foundation called Better Life Foundation. And the purpose is to help single moms by giving them 3 things. First, earning power through a community college education to acquire skill. Second, the healthy mindset and daily exercise habit. And thirdly, an empowerment attitude. And people, single mothers can learn more, singlemomsempowered.org. So quite the bio, quite the resume, John. Congratulations. And so, we're really going to focus on the course that I'm taking because of you and Kelly, called the Think It, Be It. And I'm really excited to tell and teach our Avanti entrepreneur tribe about this, because I think the majority of entrepreneurs, if not people in general, are trying really hard to be successful, right? They're good people working hard, but that alone is not enough. And what you have done is taken and distilled the principles of the book called Think and Grow Rich, which has some great lessons in it. One of those being, I'll say the most important one being, is visualize and write down who you want to be, who you want to become, and then create habits in your life to really retrain and train your brain to have these, to do these daily, weekly habits, so that these visions come true. Now, the majority of people who read the book never do that because it's work. It's a lot of planning. It's creating that habit to find time every day to really get immersed in those visions. You've created a system, a program, and I'll say it's almost a class on really how to make all these incredible strategies come true, so that you could really, first of all, think about and design who you want to be and what you want to become when it comes to relationships, when it comes to careers and passion, when it comes to health, when it comes to spirituality. And so you've created a system here that once you go through the program, it only takes, yes, 12 minutes a day, first thing in the morning. And who doesn't have 12 minutes, right? 12 minutes a day to program your brain. And at the end of the day, it's science. You are reprogramming your brain with science so that, yes, that you move forward with everything that you are visualizing as it relates to relationships, spirituality, career, health, etc. So really, Avanti listeners, what you're going to get out of this interview is really the nuts and bolts of what you have to do to learn more about John's program and to create the visualization that you need to read 12 minutes a day to achieve what you want. And John, I'm going to say one more thing, and then I want you to really dig into your journey and how you really created this what I think could be a world-changing mission. I think it's like anything else. Once you crystallize in your mind what you want and you review it, you just move forward towards that, right? And there's the example, you think about buying a certain car, and all of a sudden you see those cars all over the place. All of a sudden they're in your life like crazy. Well, they were always there. You just weren't seeing them. But then when you realize that that's what you wanted, the universe kind of delivers that image to your brain over and over again. Before you know it, you have that car, right?
Right.
But that's maybe like a very simple explanation of what you're doing to help people, create success in all these different areas. So tell us about how you got to where you are with this. I mean, you already obviously were a very successful guy. You were making six figures by all accounts and purposes, and intents and purposes. You were very successful. I'm sure your parents were proud. I'm sure you were a pillar in your community, but you knew that you could do so much more, right? You weren't satisfied, right? So
right.
Tell us about that journey and how you got to creating Think It, Be It, please.
Well, when I turned 50, I just wasn't as successful as I thought I should be. I mean, yeah, sure, I was making six figures a year, but I realized that to have an exceptional life, hey, I was going to have to make seven. I mean, I could just do the math. And I also realized that at 50, I had to make it happen in my 50s. If I didn't make it happen in my 50s, it probably wasn't going to happen. And the other thing that was going on in my life was that at 50, I'd never been married. And so that was frustrating, not to find the woman of my dreams. So, on my two goals of having enough money to not have to work and finding the woman of my dreams, I was falling short on both. And David, it's interesting. About 3 days after I turned 50, I'm sitting back in my office, kicked back, and I'm really thinking about my life. And I really come to grips with that issue of I got to make 7 figures a year, and I got to do something to change the dynamics in finding a great partner in life. And but the question was, what do I do? I mean, I'm working as hard as I can. I'm working, 60, 70 hours a week. And, it occurs to me, I'm like, hard work doesn't work. I mean, it works for making 6 figures a year, but I'm living proof that doesn't work for making 7. And I thought there has to be something else. And so I'm like, but what is it? And how do I cross over to making 7 figures a year? And so I didn't know the answer, but I'm like, there is something else, and I'm by God going to figure out what it is. And about 3 months after turning 50, it comes to me like this pearl of wisdom. Find the top book in the world ever written on success and achievement, and take that book and apply it word for word to my life. Well, the logic of that was, really compelling. I thought, I'm on to something here. And so after a little research, I discovered that Think and Grow Rich is the top book in the world on success and achievement. And I assume you're pretty familiar with the book.
Absolutely. I've read it twice.
Why? Yeah. And so, 2 things about the book that's interesting. It sold over 100 million copies. And the next best-selling book on success has sold under 10 million copies. So clearly the top book. And secondly, more millionaires and billionaires have been created from the central concept than any other book on the planet. So as those 2 things hit me, I'm like, okay, I think we're on the path here. And so I read the book. And the central concept is what you envision in detail on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. Now, Dave, let me say that again. What you envision in detail on a daily basis is what shows up in your life. So, great concept, and I start to try to apply it, and I see there's not a practical way to apply it. The book doesn't give you that. And so, I'm dejected. It's like, so many times you read a book and it's great ideas, but about how to apply it to your unique life. And so for a couple of weeks, I mope around about, this is like so many other books. And I'm like, listen, John, you're going to have to figure out the practical application. What are you going to go find a better book? And so I figure out a practical way to apply it. And, probably took me 2 or 3 weeks of, really working on it. And then over the next 9 years, I'm continually tweaking it. And I'd just gone into a new business in the financial services industry. And over that 9 years, I see my income go from low 6 figures a year to $5 million a year. And I also met the woman of my dreams. And what was really cool about it, David, is that I could see why it was happening. I mean, I saw that by applying 2 key scientific principles to my life, I could materially impact my success and achievement in life. And, that really changed me as an entrepreneur because it became so intellectually fascinating to me that I ended up selling my company. And about 3 months after I sold my company, I meet the former chancellor and president at the University of Texas. And I tell him my story, and he says, wow, you need to teach this at the University of Texas, and why don't we teach it together? And so I'm like, wow, I'm on board.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do today is teach it to high achievers at the University of Texas. But I got to say, my passion is to take entrepreneurs who struggled like I did in my 30s and 40s, working really hard, but not knowing how to cross over, and teach them how to cross over. And that's what my 12-minute a day technique does.
Excellent. Well, I'm a big believer in what you're doing. Like I mentioned, I finished your program about 2.5 weeks ago. And so, Avanti listeners, just so you know, the end result of the program is you get a daily visualization. And if you're watching this podcast on YouTube here, it's a one sheeter, back and front. It's formatted, so it's fun to read. It's colorful. It flows nice, and I read it every morning. It takes 12 minutes or less, and it focuses me on what do I want out of myself, my personal character, right? Integrity, compassion, empathy. What do I want out of my health? I'm very specific. What do I want out of my relationships? What do I want for my spirituality? And what do I want for my career, right? And so I read what I want, and it's very crystal every morning. And guess what? The science, and you talk about this a lot in the course, John, the science kicks in where all of a sudden you're not even thinking about these things. They just start to happen automatically, right? So for me, one of the things that I put in here for my personal vision is I wanted to live life with more compassion, give more people the benefit of the doubt. And I just find myself doing that more and more. People start to irritate me, and I catch myself and I say, they're doing the best they can, so let me have compassion for them. And that's right in my vision, right? My health. I say to myself, I'm going to work out at least 5 days a week from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. And I'm going to do cardio and a strength workout. And so this morning I worked out, and I just happened to look at the clock. It was exactly 6:30 when I began my workout. I mean, it's like these things are just starting to happen, right? Like I'm very specific about what I want, and all of a sudden they're appearing in my life. The career piece, I'm very specific now about where I want to go with Avanti. And I have some very specific dreams and goals that I'm reading about every day. And as a manic, somewhat frenetic entrepreneur, as many of us are, where I have the new idea every other week, and I'm constantly getting, sucked into the different direction. I have to say I'm the most focused I've ever been the past couple of weeks. People that I'm working with are like, Dave, wow, you're really focused. And it's because I'm reading where I want to go every morning. And so my brain is moving in that direction and not getting distracted by the other, bright, shiny lights. And I think it's really important to, it's a simple concept when you think about it. Just write out what you're looking for, read it every day. It's simple to get six-pack abs, right? Two things: eat well and do like a lot of sit-ups every day. How many people have six-pack abs, right? Because they just don't do the work, right? And it's very simple as far as like the prescription of what to do. And think it be it. It's very simple at the end of the day to create a visualization and read it every day for 12 minutes. It's looking at the big picture. Who doesn't have 12 minutes to read their visualization every day? Everybody does, right? But the act of executing on that and doing it every day, just like the act of doing 1,000 sit-ups a day and eating well, the execution part could be the difficult part. But once again, it's becoming a habit for me, right? It's the first thing I do. I get up in the morning, have a big glass of water, sit on the couch, and I read my visualization. What a great way to start the day. And you and I are both disciples of Darren Hardy. We both went through his HPF program, High Performance Forum. We didn't go together, but I think that's how we ultimately got connected, through mutual connections, and Kelly Hatfield, of course. And I always remember Darren when he was looking for the woman of his dreams. He tells the story how he broke out a journal and he spent hours writing exactly what he was looking for in the woman of his dreams. And then he also wrote, okay, now who does he have to become to attract that type of woman, right? And he would read that. And, before you know it, Georgia, his wife, and that's exactly who he wrote about, and he talks about how it's like she was almost like peeled off the pages of his journal, right? But it became reality because he wrote it out very specifically, but also wrote out who he had to become to attract that type of woman. And we do this in the visualization too. Who do we have to become to attract the type of success that we're looking for in our relationship, in our health, in our career? And that's what I like about your program too, because it's not about like, I want this, I want that. That's obviously a piece of it, but it's also thinking about like, okay, what do I need to do personally to attract this type of success? I think that's a big piece of what you're doing as well.
Well, and let me clarify one thing that you said that I think would help the audience. So when you hear visualization, I get the feeling that it's sort of woo-woo. Envision what you want. Well, that was The Secret, if you remember The Secret. But that's not what this is about. This is about being clear about the person you want to be, what you want to accomplish, and how you're going to accomplish it, the path. So it's seeing what you want, but also every day feeding yourself the path. And that's really the key thing. And I'm curious on your end, what do you think creates success in a person's life conceptually?
I feel that that clarity, really being very clear about what you want to do with your life, right?
Right.
And then setting up the systems to and the habits, I should say, to continually move forward towards those goals.
Well, let's dig into that a little deeper. I think that's right, but let's dig into that a little deeper. I would say that when you really think about what creates success in a person's life, whether it's their career, their health, their relationship, it's their everyday actions and ongoing thoughts. And most people don't really, I think they understand that sort of nebulously, but they don't fully embrace it. And what's unique about what I think I've created is that everything else in the success and human achievement field is strategies. But David, as you know as well as I do, we got great strategies coming out our ears. It's how do you apply those great strategies so they show up in your everyday actions and thoughts. That's the difference. And that's why this is a game changer, is that through applying science, you can make what you want to happen in your life and the path become a reality, and it happens automatically without thinking after the science kicks in after approximately 21 days.
So I understand it because I took your course, but can you explain to our listeners, what do you mean by science, right? I mean, I think of like I'm in a science lab doing an experiment.
Right.
What are you talking about when you say that actually science is responsible for the success?
Right. Well, let me give you an example. I mean, I'll address exactly how this works, and then I'll give you an example, and I'll show you how the science kicks in. So this is basically taking your life and defining exactly the person you want to be, exactly what you want to accomplish, and precisely how you're going to achieve your clearly defined goals. And that's accomplished through compressing your life down to one sheet of paper. And so you read that every day. Every day, first thing in the morning, you're reading that. Well, after about 21 days, the part of your brain that controls your everyday actions and ongoing thoughts, which are the things that determine your success, it starts to show up automatically without thinking. Those things you're reading and that programming starts to show up automatically without thinking. And when that happens, and you sort of experience this like a light bulb going on in your head, it's like, wow, this is happening without me consciously trying to make it happen. And David, I'll share the thing that really was enlightening about the science to me. So I didn't get married until I was in my 50s, late 50s. And so I discover every once in a while that your spouse will say things that is irritating.
Hmm.
Now, I know that's never happened to you,
Never.
but to a lot of people it has. And of course, my married friends never shared that little secret with me, so I'm not really happy with my friends. But but I experienced it, and while it didn't happen a lot, I didn't like it when it did, and I didn't like what sort of came out of my mouth. And so I'm like, I'm going to fix this. So every day I'm reading, I'm going to be flexible, patient, and thoughtful. So every day I'm reading that. Well, 15 days in, nothing. I'm no more flexible, patient, or thoughtful than I was when I started. But about the 21st, 22nd day, my precious wife, Ginger, says something irritating. Hmm. And in that moment, I'm flexible, patient, and thoughtful. I didn't have to think to be it. I was it. And it was so amazing to sort of step back and see that happen without thinking. And I realized that the reason it didn't happen 15 days in is because my subconscious mind did not accept the programming at that point. But once it did, and it happened again around the 21st, 22nd day, that's when everything changed. Then it finally accepts it, and it feeds it up to myself automatically without thinking. And that was really the game changer, because I saw that wow, my success really does come down to my everyday actions and ongoing thoughts. And now I have a 12-minute a day methodology to make that happen.
So
does that make sense?
It totally makes sense, and I see it with myself already, and I've only been reading it for a little over 2 weeks. I don't think it's even been 21 days. You know, like I have a weight goal by the end of January, and I said to myself, I'm not going to eat bread, I'm not going to have sweets, and I find myself going for the piece of bread at dinner, and then I'm like, nope, not going to have it, and it's just kind of it just and so you talk about something that I knew a little bit about it, but not as much. But you talk about like literally how the science happens in our brains, and it's through what's called the RAS, right? You want to tell us about the RAS?
Right. Well, the RAS that's short for reticular activating system, and what's interesting is your brain has hundreds of things coming into it every moment. But it can only process a small percentage of that. And so the brain needs a filter. And so the filter is your RAS. It's like the nightclub bouncer that determines what gets in and what doesn't get in. And so when you feed yourself every day exactly what you want to be, how you're going to accomplish it, that gives your RAS amazing clarity as to what's important to you, and then it filters around that. And what surprised me was once I started doing this, things start coming in my consciousness that weren't coming in before, because I didn't give my RAS so much clarity.
So it's kind of like you're literally reprogramming your brain.
Right. And one thing that's worth mentioning, this is for successful people. It really is for successful people, but people that just aren't as successful as they think they should be.
Yeah. Well, we all can be more successful.
Right. I mean, so many people, I remember when I was in my 30s and 40s, as you said in the introduction, you said I was very successful. Well, I would take exception to that. I was successful, but I wasn't, in my opinion, very successful. Mm-hmm. And to me, the exceptional life comes down to three things. First, it's making 7 figures a year and having financial security. Secondly, it's having control of my health and being slim and fit. And third, it's having a great relationship. I mean, to me, that's the trifecta of having the exceptional life. And I realize that and this is, if I had to summarize the number one lesson I've learned in life in my 60 years on this planet. It's that if you do life like everyone else, you're going to have an average life. You're not going to have the exceptional life. And I realize that the reason people do life like everybody else is not really by choice. It's they don't know there's an alternative. Well, this 12 minutes a day is the alternative.
It's literally changing the record in your head. There's already a record playing, and
Right.
often it's a negative record, or it's a self-limiting record.
Right.
The RAS is telling you that, you can't be a writer, you can't be a speaker, you can't make seven figures, you can't find the woman or man of your dreams, you can't be healthy because of blah blah blah. And so the idea is to stop listening to that record, put a new record in your brain, and the way you do that is create this visualization and read it every day for 12 minutes, and then you reprogram your RAS, so it's telling your brain what you can do in the app. And it's funny, you just said your trifecta, right? And there was a health goal, there was a financial goal, and there was a relationship goal. And you send out, now that I'm part of the program, you send out weekly content to continue my learning. And Brian Tracy has a great talk where, whenever he does a seminars, he tells people, okay, everybody, get out a piece of paper, write down 3 goals that you want to achieve by the end of the year. And then at the end, he'll say, all right, I'm going to take a wild guess that one of your goals was about health, one of your goals was about finances, and one of your goals was about relationships. And people are like, oh my God, how did you know? Well, those are the trifecta. You got those
Right.
three things right. And then I'll say, using, in my opinion, using your spirituality and your faith as something that's going to overlap all of those. We'll say that's the fertilizer, right, to explode everything. Then you're really on your way to create an incredible direction, incredible life for yourself. So you started this program in your 50s. You met the woman of your dreams. Congratulations. You went from making low 6 figures to over 5 million a year. So that's kind of proof in the pudding. So now I know by your timeline that you're in your 60s now, and you look fantastic, right? You're very thin and you look very vibrant and healthy. God also gave you a great head of hair, so you got it going on from that perspective. So how do you feel from I'll say pre this program to John 2.0? What are some of the differences in your life now about just how you feel as a person?
That's a great question, David. I tell you, when I was in my 30s and 40s, I was always, I was like, how do I get to where I don't have to work? I mean, isn't that what we're all looking to do, is have that freedom? And if you would have asked me to rate myself on a scale of 1 to 10 as an entrepreneur in my 30s and 40s, I would have said that I was probably an 8, maybe because I worked harder than my friends. But when I got in my 50s, I'm like, wait a minute, I wasn't a friggin' 8. I was a 3 or 4.
Wow.
Because I saw that I was just operating at a higher level. I mean, I could just feel it on a daily basis. And what was great was, yes, it was great to make that money. And but what I saw was most important was not the material things. It was really that freedom to create the life I want, and to get up every day and do what I wanted to do, not what I had to do. And I also saw that relationship, that significant other relationship, affected my happiness more than any other external factor. And so now I could really put the energy into, being great at that relationship. And I see that now the sense of accomplishment, and just I'm so passionate about helping people that were where I was in my 30s and 40s. I mean, I see the difference between, getting up every day and doing a job, and getting up every day and being passionate about something. And, you know, this course now has become so meaningful, because now every day we get people sending emails saying, boy, this is changing my life, just like you did. And I just can't tell you how gratifying that is.
Yeah, I just wrote you a testimonial. You didn't even ask me to. I'm like, I got to write you on a testimonial because I'm really excited. So, and the timing was divine because I literally just turned 50. And
Right.
I think I started taking the course a couple months ago when you know, I'm like, you're talking about how, you know, you turned 50 and you weren't where you wanted to be.
Right.
And yeah, have I led a beautiful life? Absolutely. But I want so much more, right? I know I'll say, I don't know if it's I want, that maybe that's a little selfish. I know in my heart that I have so much more to give the world.
Right.
And I want to maximize. I feel like it's my God-given duty to maximize my potential because I know I'm coming from a good place to help people and make a positive impact on the world. And so I feel compelled to do whatever I can to maximize my potential. And I feel like on my own, I'm only going to get so far. But, you know, with people like you in my life and what you've just done with the course and this, that now that my daily visualization, I feel strongly it's going to be like the linchpin factor that's going to really help me to get to the level of potential that I have to offer the world. So thank you for that.
Well, and David, you know, think about this, and I think this is a great exercise to do with your audience. And this was really what really changed things for me when I turned 50, was having the presence of mind to step back and really assess the results of my life based on actually what the results were, not sort of looking at them through rose-colored glasses or going, well, you know, if this would change, then it would be, no. What are the actual results? And so let's go through this exercise. So this is really, you've already done it, but this is for your audience. So think about your career. Just think about your career. Think about what you've made the last 3 years, what's shown up on the tax return, what have you made, what's the average you made for the last 3 years, and scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your career? Okay, got that number in your head? Now let's move to your controlling your health and appearance. What do you want to weigh? What do you weigh? Scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate your health and fitness? Okay, got that number in your head? Then the third one, your significant other relationship. Scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate that relationship or your ability to find a great relationship? And David, I think when you have the presence of mind to step back and honestly assess that, then you realize, well, wait a minute, this thing's not working out like I thought. And unless I change and do something different, I'm going to keep on getting the results I'm getting. And therefore, I've got to do something different. And that's what hit me at 50. And that's why I sought out the book, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, you know, part of what the exercises that I was doing, you know, during your program is, you know, kind of visualizing how I would feel if nothing changed versus how I would feel if I was able to achieve everything that I wanted to achieve.
Right point.
And it's like night and day, right? I mean, and you know what? We only have one life. Every person that I know that is in their 70s, 80s, 90s plus, they're amazed at how fast life has gone by, right? They feel like I blinked and I'm 85. I mean, I have a great aunt who's 102.
Right.
Like, how did this happen? You know? And it always scared the living, you know what, out of me to, you know, think of myself as age 95 on my rocking chair with regrets.
Right.
And not being able to say, you know what? Oh, I did not reach my potential. I want to make sure that I've done everything I can to maximize the gifts that God has given me so that I can help others and make an impact in the world. And so I do feel like it's my duty to do that.
Right.
And I think by going through the Think It Be It program, this is going to be a major, if not the factor that pushes me to be able to do that. And John, what I love about it is you're just not some motivational guy, kind of pumping it up with great energy and presentation. You did it. You're living proof. I mean,
right.
you were single for a long time, and all of a sudden, poof, you met the woman of your dreams, right?
Right.
You were making a couple $100,000 for a long time, and then poof, wow, $5 million a year. Not too shabby.
Right.
And like we said, you're healthy. So you're not only talking the talk, you've walked the walk, and you continue to do so.
Well, and I think one thing your audience would be really interested in is, well, how the heck did he go from 6 figures a year to 5 million a year? What really, explain that to me better. And here's how it works, because that was my focus, to create that financial freedom and make 7 figures a year. And so many of your audience are frustrated because they were challenged like I was about how to get to 7 figures a year. Well, here was the difference. Every day I feed to myself my business plan, my strategy for success, the 3 things that move the needle in my business, and the linchpin issue, whatever that issue is that takes the business to the next level. And so I would have a succinct articulation of those 4 things, and I'd read that every day. Well, here's what happened, and this was the difference. Well, first of all, my business plan was easy to implement because it was so top of mind. That's the first thing. Second thing is I was laser focused only on what moved the needle, because I realized that my most precious commodity is my time. And once you're reading every day what the 2 or 3 things that move the needle is, all other distractions fall by the wayside, because it's so ingrained in your head that the other stuff doesn't really matter all that much. Then you become laser focused on what does matter. And the third thing, and this was the surprise, David, I started to see that my strategy for success started to morph and evolve probably 20 times quicker than it ever had before. And I realized that was happening because since I'm feeding that succinct vision every day, my subconscious mind is working on it 24/7, and it's challenging it. And everybody's strategy for success in their business has some flaws in it, or they don't see it in enough detail, or it's probably 60-70% right, but when you feed it every day, you're constantly refining it. And I change my visualization probably once every 2 weeks, because I just see something a little differently and a little deeper, and literally it caused my strategy for success to probably move forward by 20 times what it was when my 30s and 40s. And so that combination of those 3 things is why my income went from low 6 figures to mid 7 figures a year.
Sure. No, I mean, just the exercise that I've done has really forced me to think about, where I want to go with Avanti. And I want to have global impact when it comes to giving accessibility to coaching for the small business entrepreneur.
Right.
I said, well, what is the linchpin with that? Well, the linchpin is the fact that we have to identify the right audience that wants coaching. And then, we have programs now for $39 a month and $99 a month and $299 a month. But I said, you know what, if I get 100,000, members that are investing $39 a month with me for a year, we have over a $44 million business a year. Boom, right? So I said, all right, what is the linchpin to make that happen? Well, I have to do some testing to find out who is the client avatar that's going to, invest in the $39 coaching. What is the message that we need to get to them? And once we have that figured out, we have to put in place the digital, I'll call it the digital marketing flywheel, to sign these people up, 100, 200, 300 a day, right? And once we do that, we're on our way to 100,000. But it's getting to that point of that linchpin, which is creating that digital marketing flywheel that we know is attracting the right type of client persona, client avatar to the value that we're offering and getting them to sign up. So I'm very thank you for that, because it's what is that linchpin that is going to create that flywheel to build and feed your business so that you could provide the value to all the members that you're trying to help.
Right. Well, this is all about working smarter, not working harder, but working smarter. And it's really living a life of immense intention and clarity. And I see it as, literally a new way of doing life, a new way of thinking. I mean, would you see it that way too?
Totally. I like that tagline, actually. I know you got a lot of great sayings with the course so far, but I like that a lot. A new way of doing life, and because it really is.
Well, and the other thing that's sort of interesting is over the last 20 years, there's been an intense interest in what separates the mega achievers from everybody else. And what it is, if you had to summarize 20 years of research, the differentiator between the mega successful and the moderately successful is control of self and focus. Mm-hmm. Well, those are exactly the two things this 12-minute-a-day technique impacts: control of self and focus. And so that's what tells me this is powerful. If the science backs up, that's what creates the mega achievers. And this 12-minute-a-day technique addresses exactly those two things. This probably is going to work.
Yep.
And speaking about, does it work? Well, it works on everyone because it's pure science. But let me say there's a caveat to that. And here's the caveat. If you're sort of by your nature not inclined to a habit, and you don't like habits, you don't like structure, this ain't going to work. It's just not going to work. The other thing is, if you find that success is a preference as opposed to a necessity, this ain't going to work, because you're not going to do it. But if you do it because you can embrace a habit, and because that higher level of success is a necessity, works on everyone 100% of the time.
Yep. But you want to be able to take control of the wheel, the driving wheel of your life, right? Instead of just letting life happen to you, because it will.
Right. Yeah. Right. And you'd find this interesting being a fan of Darren Hardy. So probably 3 years ago, I decide I'm going to get to the top expert in success and achievement and show him what I created, because I could tell this is going to be my life work the rest of my life. And I really, I'm too close to it to be objective about it. And I wanted to hear, is there anything else out there like it? Are there any flaws in it? And so I realized that Darren Hardy was probably the top expert in the world on success and achievement. And so I decided to go meet him. And so I wrote a big check, and I was able to spend 3 days with him.
Yeah, it's funny how that works, right?
Yeah, I know. And so I show it to him, and he looks at it, and he goes, this is good. And then he starts looking at it a little closer, and he goes, wow, this is really, really excellent. And he says, but John, you got a problem. Most people are not going to spend 12 minutes a day on anything to impact their success and achievement in life. And I'm like, wait a minute, Darren, how can that be? It's 12 minutes a day. It's based on the top book ever written on success and achievement. And Time Magazine did a cover story on the science behind it. How are people not doing this? And he goes, I know. He says, you're like that. You'll spend 12 minutes a day. So will I. But he says, I'm just telling you, the vast majority of people will not do 12 minutes a day to impact their success and achievement. And he says, so your challenge is to go find people that will. And he says, entrepreneurs tend to have more control of their life, more of a desire to have control of their life. And he says, that's the people you need to share this with. And he says, what's going to be cool about it is, he says, this will end up being their advantage in life. And I tell you, I've now come to appreciate in life, you have to have an advantage, something that you do that nobody else does, sort of around that idea that if you do life like everybody else, you're going to get an average life. Well, I see that in just 12 minutes a day, you can do life differently and hugely impact your whole life. And if you had told me in my 30s and 40s that the difference is going to be 12 minutes a day, I'd go, that's impossible. I don't buy that for a second. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, that is how it works.
Yep, I agree completely. And you're giving us that advantage. So thank you, John.
Right. Hey, thank you.
John, due to the short attention spans of your average entrepreneur, I do like to keep these around 30 minutes. We've gone over because you're so compelling and I love what you're doing. So I wanted to continue the conversation. But John, if Avanti Entrepreneur listeners, viewers want to learn more about Think It, Be It and get in touch with you, what are the best ways to follow up with you?
Well, two ways, David. First, I have created for your audience a free 5-day email course that explains exactly how this works, shows how it works, shows the science. Each day is a short video. Like I said, it's free. And if your audience will text to, the number is 44222. So the number is 44222. And then in the message part of the text, just key in the word genius. Genius. And what will happen is it'll ask for your email address, and then the next day you'll start getting the free 5-day email course. And the other way people can get in touch with me is just John at thinkitbeit.net. thinkitbeit.net.
Beautiful. Hey, John, truly appreciate you coming into my life. Very glad you were born, and very glad that Kelly Hatfield introduced us. And I know she's a partner with this, with Think It, Be It. And you guys are doing incredible things. The course is great. The videos are great. The format, everything is just fantastic. I'm super pumped that I had the focus to take the course and do what I had to do to create my daily visualization. So appreciate everything that you're doing, and it's going to be fun to be a part of your success and watch your success as you impact the world with Think It, Be It.
Thank you. I sure appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I want to thank all the Avanti Entrepreneur listeners and viewers for being a part of this podcast. We appreciate you as well. As always, you can listen to this interview again, see the show notes. You'll see where John talks about his course. I'll have in the show notes where to text and all that stuff as well. We have over 100 other great interviews and a lot more resources at AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. You can always throw me an email too, david@davidmamano.com. Thanks again. Have a great day and stay awesome.
Thank you for listening. Head over to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com for show notes and more helpful advice from entrepreneurs like you. Continue to find your entrepreneurial rhythm at the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast.